Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this fabulous day for New York City. It's a very celebratory day. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge some of the VIPs that are joining us this morning. Congressman Gerald Nadler is here. Congressman Peter King. Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano. New York City Council members Dan Garodnick, Corey Johnson. Former New York City Mayor David Dinkins is here. Mario Salento, President, New York State AFL-CIO. Gary LaBarbera, President, Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York. Anthony Simon, General Chairman, Smart Transportation Division. Ken Sexton, General Chairman, Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. Jill Ferrillo, Executive Director, New York State Nurses Association. Kathy Wild, President and CEO, Partnership for New York City. Patrick Warren, Executive Director, Federal Railroad Administration. Melissa DeRosa, Secretary to the Governor. Rick, I always have a hard time pronouncing your last name. Cotton, Special Counsel to the Governor. Michael Evans, President, Moynihan Station Development Corporation. U.S. Senator Charles Schumer. I want to thank Governor Cuomo for his extraordinary vision in making this project a reality. This has been contemplated for decades, but thanks to Governor Cuomo's leadership and his insistence, his ability to bring all parties together, we are getting it done. He is the push against the bureaucracy. Don't take no for an answer. Tomorrow isn't soon enough. Don't tell me no, Zemsky, Governor. We have made unprecedented progress. Last week, for example, we signed a financial agreement with our private sector partners, a final hurdle that sets the stage for construction to move forward on the rest of this project. Let's hear it for that. I am especially proud that ESD has taken a lead role on transforming Penn Farley. This is a signature project for the state, and I want to tip my hat, all the hats I own, to the ESD team and the Moynihan subsidiary for their dedication and tireless efforts that are so obviously on display here today. So once again, I want to thank Governor Cuomo for making it happen. And I want to thank our local, state, and federal partners who have helped make this day happen. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. First to Howard Zemsky and the team at the Empire State Development Corporation. Let's give them a round of applause because they did a great job. To Mr. Rick Cotton, who is my special counsel, and we give him all the tough ones, and we gave him this one. and he did an amazing job. Rick Cotton, thank you very much. To all the dignitaries, to all our partners in organized labor and County Executive of Nassau, County Executive of Suffolk, this was obviously a regional project working with the Long Island Railroad. So I want to thank all involved. I want to thank Amtrak, the MTA officials who worked to make today possible, and our federal partners, Senator Schumer, who was persistent and dogged to make sure we had the funding to do this, and Congressman Nadler and the entire delegation. Let's give them a round of applause. And I think it's especially poignant that we remember today Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. This was his vision, and Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan was truly a visionary. He was looking into the future and always focused on how government could do better and what government should be doing to get ahead of the curve. He started talking about this project in 1993, believe it or not. Bill Clinton came and endorsed it as President of the United States. Mayor Dinkins was there at the time. But 25 years it took to get this project going. Just imagine that. There's a lesson in there for us. But this is what we call the West Concourse. You'll see when you go downstairs that we have access to all the Long Island Railroad trains. Is a slightly different feeling than Penn Station, which I call affectionately the catacombs. I mean it in a nice way. I like the catacombs, just not as an entrance way to a train station. But it is a beginning of a transformation. This is also door number one. Door number two is when we finish the train hall, which is what Howard Zemsky was referring to. That's a $1.6 billion project. It is literally right behind us. It will be the big sister to the Grand Central Terminal, larger than Grand Central Terminal, 90-foot ceilings, beautiful trusses, beautiful skylights, 700,000 square feet of commercial space. That was Senator Moynihan's vision. This building, the Farley building, which is magnificent, was done by the same architects that did the original Penn Station. And he wanted to preserve that grandeur of the architecture and really have a train hall that was deserving of the title a New York Train Hall. And that's what we are going to have, about 2.5 years to completion of the train hall. And I think Senator Moynihan would be pleased because we even improved on the plan that he left us. The original plan was the train hall was going to be occupied by Amtrak, and the Long Island Railroad was going to be at Penn Station. We decided that that wasn't fair or equitable or livable. So Long Island Railroad will now be in the train hall with Amtrak, and that will be the main train hall. But this West Concourse is in many ways a transition to the transformation. If you're a Long Island Railroad customer, you never have to go into Penn again. You can use this entrance. You can use this entrance, and then in 2.5 years, we'll have the train hall, which will be serving all of the Long Island Railroad. Short term, we have a period of pain we're going to go through this summer. July 8th, Penn is going to close down several tracks for emergency repairs. Penn is operated by Amtrak, as you know. That will cause a backup for the Long Island Railroad. The Long Island Railroad has come up with a multifaceted, creative plan to find ways to facilitate the commute. They're going to be running express buses. They're going to be running ferries. They're going to be running more trains from Long Island. They'll be canceling trains the night before and running trains out east so they can run them back in the morning. The reason we have to cancel trains is because in some parts on Long Island there's only one track, believe it or not. Hopefully we fix that with our second and third track proposals. But they'll be running more direct trains and they'll be running diverted trains. I think the Long Island Railroad has gone to great extent and they're very creative in what they did. They also have 50% tolls for trucks at night. And I think that's very smart. It's a form of congestion pricing. I'm curious to see how that works. But some people will need to take diverted trains. Those are trains that won't come right into Penn Station. We don't have enough volume on the trains for everyone to take a direct train, so some people need to take diverted trains. I think the Long Island Railroad should consider reducing the fares on those diverted trains. That's only fair to the people who are taking those trains, and you want to make sure people do take the diverted trains. As I said, we don't have the capacity on the direct trains. So I would ask them to consider running reduced fares for those people who take that diverted trains. Most of all, what this says and what Daniel Patrick Moynihan said to us was the great government leaders, the great planners, the great civic leaders were always a step ahead. They were always looking to the future, and New York is about looking at the future and then building to facilitate that dream. We now talk about the problem at Penn Station is that we didn't maintain the tracks. Problem in the subway station is we didn't maintain the tracks. Problem on some of the Long Island Railroad, we didn't maintain deferred maintenance. That's true. When budgets are tight, and budgets are always tight, the first thing to go is deferred maintenance. But as leaders, we're not just supposed to be looking at maintenance. It was not about maintaining what we have. It was about thinking about what we need going forward and building that. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, I want that train haul because I see growth, I see expansion, and I want to make sure that we can handle that expansion. The great thinkers said transportation infrastructure spurred development. Our transportation infrastructure today retards development. It is slowing the development of this region. We have to remember what our founding fathers knew. This is New York. There was an ambition, there was a drive. And Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan said, I have a vision, let's go. We have lost that ambition. We have lost that drive. When is the last time we did something grand? Long Island Railroad. That was their vision in 1934. They ran that railroad out to potato fields on Long Island. Grand Central Terminal, 1871. Subway system, 1904. LaGuardia, 1939. This nation hasn't built an airport in over 20 years. We all talk about infrastructure, but we're not making it a reality. We have the most robust development program in New York State in modern history, over $100 billion. New LaGuardia, new JFK, new Rochester Airport, new Syracuse Airport, second track, third track. The most robust program the state has ever had. But even with that program, we can do more. And we can do better. And the program we need to start with is the Gateway Tunnel. This is a project that fits all the criteria President Trump talks about. It is public-private sector partnership. It is New York State, New Jersey partnering with the federal government. It is desperately needed. It's a new tunnel from New Jersey into New York, and that project should also include a new Penn Station, because Penn as we know it must end. A train haul is only as good as the tracks, and we can't have Penn and Amtrak continuing to run those tracks the way they are now. Gateway would be a new tunnel, a new Penn station, a $20 billion project. Everyone put up their hand and pledged support. We need it desperately, and we can't talk about this for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years, because literally we don't have the time. From the moment we hit go for the Gateway Tunnel, I will bet you we're talking 10 years before we have that tunnel finished. And the tunnels are in such a state of disrepair, I'm not even sure they're going to make 10 years. So let New York and our federal leaders and our state leaders who are here today, let's take this rhetoric and turn it into reality. New York was the state that showed this nation how to build to begin with. The president's right when he talks about the Erie Canal and the New York ambition and the New York creativity. Look at what our founding fathers did. Let's show this nation how to build once again. We're on our way. Let's make the Gateway Tunnel a reality. Let's have it going, connected with this new train hall, repairing Penn to a station and a transportation system that is going to grow this state. And rather be an inconvenience is a pleasure. And it makes this state the gateway state to the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Governor. You know, the governor is, I have worked with the governor for 2.5 years and for a few years before that in Buffalo. There are some people who run toward problems. There are some people who run away from problems, whether it's the Peace Bridge in Buffalo, the Buffalo economy, the upstate economy, or the infrastructure challenges downstate in New York City, airports, train stations, etc. The governor is drawn to the most complicated, most intractable problems. Let's hear it one more time for the governor's leadership. Similarly, we have an extraordinary senator, our senior senator from the state of New York, who from the tip of Long Island to beautiful Buffalo and everywhere in between is an unparalleled, unique, and amazingly effective voice for New York State and Washington. It's my pleasure to introduce U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer.
Well, thank you, Howard. And I want to thank Howard for the great job he does. I've known him for many years. He was a great advocate for Buffalo. Now he's a great advocate for New York State. And we're lucky to have you doing that, Howard. Thank you very, very much. I want to thank the governor and Jerry Nadler for being here, because we're marking a monumental day in New York City's history. That's because Senator Moynihan's vision of transforming the Farley Post Office into a 21st century rail hub is now becoming a reality. I want to tell you a story. Senator Moynihan campaigned for me in my re-election. He was friends with Senator D'Amato, but he thought that I would make a good senator, and I'll never forget the last week of the campaign. We took a bus tour that started in Buffalo, went to Rochester, Syracuse, Albany. His back from his old World War II injury was hurting, but he still went through the whole thing. Then I won, and he called me to his office down in the Federal Building a week later, and I sat down with him, and here's what he said. He said, now that you've won, I'm going to announce I'm not going to run again. That, of course, changed history. He said, now that you're there, you can protect New York's legacy. And I want to leave you with several missions. One, protect New York's hospitals. New York's hospitals are so vital to New York in the research and everything they do. Second, he said, is infrastructure and transportation. And he said to me that not only do we have to keep the formula that he wrote, which benefits New York. You know, we get back more dollars, or until Donald Trump proposed his budget, we'll see what happens, but we get back more dollars than we put in. But he said the other thing you should do is think grand those were his words, think grand when it comes to public works. We should. And I have kept Senator Moynihan's admonitions. He was a mentor to me. I audited his class when I was a freshman at college, and we've been friends ever since. And he said, do it, and so I have been. And I have focused on 3 legacy projects. One, which is pretty much completed, was the rebuilding of the World Trade Center after 9/11. And we worked real hard and got the federal dollars there, and through public and private, some people in this room, we got that done. The second is Moynihan Station. And we called for it to be named for him, deservedly so, because he thought so long and hard. And as you see, we have now made progress there. And the third is the Gateway Tunnel. This has been a passion of mine for years. Ever since Sandy, we have changed the formula. So Amtrak puts all its profits from the Northeast Line into capital construction on the Northeast Line. The money doesn't go to the Cheyenne to Boise Amtrak route anymore. We created a New Starts program and changed the formula. The federal dollars, if we manage not to change the budget, are there for Gateway Station. And I was so pleased when I asked Governor Cuomo and Governor Christie to join with Senator Gillibrand, Senator Booker, Senator Menendez, and I to help create the Gateway Development Authority, that we all came together and agreed on 50-50. And the governor is absolutely right. We cannot wait. We cannot wait, or we will create a recession in the New York area and a recession in the rest of the country if these tunnels collapse before the new tunnels are built. Okay, let's go to today's day, Moynihan. It's a giant step in the creation of a grand, Senator Moynihan's words, new station for Amtrak and Long Island Railroad riders, and the booming growth of the Hudson Yards and formerly fallow Far West Side, which has bloomed so. And you see what infrastructure is needed, how the infrastructure created that. As you may remember, I called for the creation of a train to the West Side. Mayor Bloomberg and Dan Doctoroff jumped right in. And now I love growth, as Gary Mario know. I like seeing cranes. We're seeing a lot of cranes in Hudson Yards, and it's all because we did infrastructure. We built the number 7 line. The same thing will happen here with Moynihan Station. So I worked very hard to deliver critical federal resources that paved the way for Moynihan Station, enabled Amtrak to contribute to this critical transportation hub. And I applaud Governor Cuomo. I've worked now with 3 governors on this issue. And as he said, he deserves the credit. He got it done. Nobody else got it done, but he did. I also talked at length to the leaders of Vornado and Related and Skanska. I want to thank them for their help in making this happen as well. This is how government is supposed to work. The federal government is supposed to pay the majority of the federal dollars for these issues. And then the states and localities, it was New York City on the number 7 line. It's the state on Moynihan Station. On Gateway, it's 2 states and us. Work to make it happen. And Long Island Railroad and Amtrak commuters are going to love the brand new train hall. The significant increase in concourse space, the coming improvements of the brutally overcrowded 33rd Street corridors. It's going to take tremendous pressure off the Penn Station complex. I arrived there using Amtrak from Washington a lot. It's no fun, even when the trains are on time. So we need to change that. So once complete, Moynihan Station is poised to be one of the greatest transportation and infrastructure legacies of our generation, like the number 7, like the World Trade Center, hopefully like Gateway Tunnel. Much of the infrastructure, today's infrastructure here in New York, dates back to the New Deal, when a steady stream of unprecedented federal funding was directed towards roads and bridges and tunnels. But since then, the passion for infrastructure funding, started by Henry Clay. That was before there were Republicans, Peter. He was a Whig. That was a predecessor Republican. He's the first one who proposed the federal government build roads over the Appalachian Mountains. Federal government to connect what was then the far west, Tennessee and Kentucky and Ohio, with the rest. I sound like Senator Moynihan, I guess, on that one. He loved history. In any case, now they're cutting back. Not Peter, he works hard with us. But so many others, and the president is just cutting back dramatically. Dramatically. And let me just show you the importance of the federal government. Phase one, it cost $320 million. $258 million comes from the federal government. Okay? Senator Moynihan and I actually got the first $80 million in federal earmarks. Those were in the days when we had earmarks. In 2010, I worked really hard to get the largest Tiger grant ever for any project for this station. $83 million for a single transportation project. And after a tough fight, Secretary Ray LaHood finally supported the project and gave us Tiger. It provided the last piece. And then Sandy, where we worked hard, Peter, Jerry, myself, on the Sandy money, got an additional $40 million in resiliency upgrades. So, that is very, very important. The same will happen with phase two. There'll be private dollars. The air rights are going to bring in a whole lot of money. Good. There'll be state money, but there'll also be a big chunk of federal funding. $100 million's coming from Amtrak, $22 million in CMAQ, $400 million in a TIFI alone, and historic tax credits of over $100 million. So once again, why do I bring up all these federal dollars? Because the cuts that have been proposed by President Trump would make it next to impossible to think grand the way Moynihan told us to. Because without federal funding, major infrastructure just doesn't get done. And Democrats and Republicans have to fight tooth and nail in the upcoming 2018 budget. The Tiger grant, which provided so much money for phase one, he eliminates it. Money for Amtrak, slashed when we need that money to help fund Gateway. New Starts, a program that allows us to do big infrastructure programs, he's proposed eliminating it. Together we have to change this. Public-private partnerships are nice, but they won't build very much. You need federal dollars to get the big projects done. You need federal dollars and a capable state and local government to implement things. That's what's happened here. Let us hope we can continue to make that a model and build the grand things that Senator Moynihan, who's looking down from heaven and smiling today, wanted us so much to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. Now, please join me in welcoming another wonderful, effective ally in Washington who fought hard for years. His insistence and persistence played a key role in making this project happen, Congressman Jerry Nadler.
Well, thank you, Howard. It's a pleasure to be here to help celebrate this incredible milestone in the transformation of the Penn Farley complex as we open the new West End concourse. The new Moynihan Train Hall will be a beautiful addition to New York City that will vastly improve the travel experience for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers who will until now have had to suffer through the small Penn Station. And when the Penn Farley complex is complete, it will also have a direct impact right here on the west side of Manhattan. By creating a hub for businesses and commuters alike, we will transform the Farley Post Office into an iconic civic space for this neighborhood. New stores and new businesses here at Penn Farley will infuse the local economy, continuing the transformation of New York's West Side and improving the neighborhood for New Yorkers who live and work here. At the same time, greater access to the West Side for commuters will be critical for companies moving into the rapidly growing Hudson Yards. After decades of fits and starts, thanks to the leadership of Governor Cuomo, thanks to the leadership of Senator Schumer in the Senate, thanks to our activities in the House Transportation Committee, we are on track to get it done. Today's opening celebration is a clear sign of the unprecedented progress we are making to turn this dream into a reality. But I must second what Senator Schumer said. We face a threat, and that threat is the proposal, despite the rhetoric of about $1 trillion in infrastructure, the President has proposed slashing cuts to all the federal programs that make these infrastructure projects possible, to Tiger, to New Starts, to all the different funding streams. They cannot be allowed, those cuts cannot be allowed to go through. We have to increase the federal funding, not decrease it. This project and all the projects to come are dependent on federal funding. That has to be. And by the way, Chuck mentioned Henry Clay. He slighted John Quincy Adams, who actually proposed it first. And John Quincy Adams' Secretary of State, Henry Clay, then developed what he called the American system. The American system to differentiate it from the European system. The American system was different from the European system because it contemplated government supplying a lot of the money, not just private industry. And that's what distinguished the Whigs from the Jacksonian Democrats to a large extent. They were for the American system. That's why Abraham Lincoln became a Whig. To develop, why he became a Republican was because of slavery. That was later, but he became a Whig to support infrastructure, to support roads and canals, to support the federal role in that. And now, he carried that on through the Transcontinental Railroad, the Republican Party, through the Eisenhower, the interstate highway system, and now they have forgotten about it. We must remind our Republican friends of one of the foundation stones of their party that they have to return to. The Democrats are now for infrastructure. They have to be for infrastructure too, because it is essential to the development of New York. It's essential to the development of the United States that we continue to develop our infrastructure, that we not be outstripped by China and other countries which are running rings around us. 30, 40, 50 years from now, our economic competitiveness will be dependent on the infrastructure decisions we make now. So we must step up to that challenge. This is an example of good decisions made a few years ago and of good execution now. I'm grateful for the support of my colleagues in Congress and for the commitment and relentless support of Governor Cuomo. Since day one, the governor has made Penn Farley a priority. I look forward to continuing to work with the governor and with our other partners to build on the progress we have already made to create the train hall that New Yorkers deserve, to create the neighborhood that this can be, to create the transportation hub that this will be. And I thank you for the progress you've made thus far, and I look forward to working with everybody to continue it on.
Thank you, Congressman. Today, we have shown what New York can do when we work together. The West End Concourse is a testament to the governor's leadership to transform the Farley Post Office into the state-of-the-art transit hub that we can finally be proud of. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We look forward to working with our city, state, and federal partners in the future to continue to transform Penn Station. We are going to give a tour of the concourse with a bit of a light show downstairs for those of you who would like to follow us down the escalators. Thank you.